Good afternoon, welcome to Les Sables d'Olonne on the west coast of France, home of the Vendée Globe, and today a very unpleasant day outside indeed, strong winds and rain. And meantime, on the Indian Ocean, the first few days in the Indian Ocean have been cruel to the leading group of the Vendée Globe. Yesterday it was Arkea Paprec which hit an object in the water and damaged the starboard foil on board Sébastien Simon's boat. And then last night, Sam Davis on Initiative Kerr reported that she had hit something and has sustained damage to the keel box, the structural area that supports the keel, and she's also heading north to assess the situation. Our guests today are Marcus Hutchinson of Thomas Riong's LinkedOut team, and also Jacques Caraës, the race director, is with us on the plateau. So welcome to you both. But first of all, let's look at the damage, the video that Sébastien Simon sent of the damage on Arkea Paprec, and Jacques is going to give us a little update on what the situation is with Arkea Paprec.
Yes, the situation for Arkea Paprec is not really good because big work on the boat to repair and in very bad condition of sea. So for the moment it's going north to win in latitude to have less wind, but it will not get a better condition before maybe 20 hours. So it's really a bad moment for Sébastien. He's completely disappointed because he doesn't know if he could repair. And the situation. We're seeing
the damage here.
Yes, you see the damage to the screen, and it's the back, down the foil. So it's very difficult to repair this part. And it's not only this part of the boat, so he has other problem. So for him, it's very big.
He still has water coming in, doesn't he?
Yes, yes. So he's obliged each 2 hours to pump. So it's really complicated for him to go back in the race. For the moment, he's tried to go in a better zone to repair if it's possible. But we saw that Sébastien is very, very sad because he did a good race after rescue to Kevin.
Yeah, and the problem is around the foil box, isn't it, rather than the foils?
Exactly, and the box of the foil very damaged.
Marcus Hutchinson, I think you can join us now. Marcus, you know perhaps a little bit more about the structure of the boat and what's been damaged.
The only information I have is what I've seen via your excellent service. The foil case, the bottom of the foil case seems to be leaking relatively badly, and clearly it's difficult for us ashore to understand exactly what that means, other than the fact that the structure is compromised, it's leaking. Is the bottom bearing going to be able to, even if he manages to repair it, to bear any great load from the foil if he does manage to repair what he can see? But a damage like that, unfortunately, he might not be able to see all of the damage there is, and that if he did manage to repair just the leak in the structure at the bottom of the foil case, and he started to use the foil again, would he then compromise something somewhere else? So it's very, very complicated, that sort of thing.
Thank you, Marcus. And also, as we heard yesterday evening, quite late yesterday evening, damage to Sam Davis's Initiative Kerr. And we spoke with Sam on the phone around about 9 o'clock this morning. And as ever, the super professional gave us a full update. And this is Sam's audio this morning.
I was sailing last night. I jibed in the shift in the front. There was, 30-35 knots of wind for the jibe, and that gone well, and I was happy with where I was. And then obviously sailing on starboard jibe, heading east, and obviously the sea state was pretty chaotic, as it has been for the last 2 days. And obviously I know I was in the current where there's these risks are there. But sailing really nicely on the new jibe, as well as possible given the sea state. So speeds between 15 and 22 knots. And I was actually just making a hot meal after the jibe and the stack and everything. And it was just starting to get dark. And I hit something I don't know what it was. I never saw anything. It was pretty much dark when it happened, and but it was as if I'd run aground on a rock, and I was doing 20 knots at the time. So the boat speed was from 20 to 0. Obviously, the boat nosedived in the impact on the keel. I knew it was the keel. I could hear the crack coming from there, and I and everything else in the boat flew forward, including my dinner, which is now repainted the inside of my boat. But yeah, everything moved, and I went flying into a ring frame, and well, luckily it could have been worse because the collision was really violent. But luckily, I just hurt some ribs, so it's not serious, but it's really painful. And so yeah, I stopped the boat, dropped furled the sails, dropped the main, and went to check around the keel and the bearings and the bulkheads. And the bulkheads, the main bearing bulkheads, are intact as far as I can see. The keel bearings are intact as well. The keel is still in place, but the longitudinal structure around the keel box is all cracked. So it's obviously that's taken the shock of the impact when the boat moved. So that's cracked on both sides. So yeah, and then obviously the keel ram, and because the keel ram goes through this longitudinal through the side wall of the keel box, because that obviously had all moved, and what's the word? There's a watertight seal, a flexible watertight seal on the ram, and that had obviously got knocked off, and so there was water coming into the boat from there. So I've got an immersion pump, which is really good, and I got that going really quick and had that running permanently to keep the water level down. Yeah, so for me, the most important thing was to stabilize the boat, the movement. Obviously, the sea state still is really bad, and there was 30 knots of wind. So I just tried to put the boat on a course that minimized all the movement to try and reduce all the efforts around the keel and the bulkheads, and then ran a whole load of checks with my team, who mobilized really quickly, and with the architects and the structural engineers, and just to check that I wasn't in immediate danger, basically. And so all that, we did that really quickly, and that news was reassuring. Was that from everything I could send them, everything I could see, they were pretty confident that the boat wasn't in immediate danger, as long as I obviously don't sail fast. And so there's no bad noise, and the keel is still in its bearings and not moving at all. But obviously I can't sail at any speed. So I'm heading slowly towards Cape Town, because that's the nearest shelter, and continuing to assess the damage and what to do with my shore team, who are being amazing.
So that's Sam Davis heading north to safety for the moment to further evaluate the damage to Initiative Kerr. Marcus Hutchinson, then, this is proving a very difficult stretch of water into the Indian Ocean, south of the South African continent. Is there any pattern, any reason for that you can conclude?
No, I don't think there's anything we can draw on that. That was obviously an impact with the keel. Every boat's got a keel, so we can't say it's a problem with foiling boats or something like that. I mean, when you sail these boats fast and you hit something with them and they stop, they have an awful lot of margins of safety in their structural arrangement to make sure that they can take those kind of impacts without completely compromising the integrity of the boat. But there's no question that unfortunately the structures are compromised afterwards, and you then have a choice of seeing if you can repair it. And that sounds like what Sam's going to go and find some shelter somewhere in around Cape Town and make a thorough assessment and maybe even possibly be able to make some repairs. But she described very well there what she could see, but unfortunately we don't know what she can't see. And with composite boats, you need to do a proper NDT survey to really understand the full context of the damage. And regrettably, I think that they're probably going to come to the realization that they are unable to be sure, even if she manages to repair, quite how bad the damage is elsewhere. And would they be confident enough to let Sam continue on into the Southern Ocean, because she's only at the beginning of the Southern Ocean. Very difficult choices for them. And they've got a couple of days, I think, before she gets to Cape Town. And I know that they'll be working, like all of us have done all the time, around the clock to try and work out what the situation is aboard through her description and photographs. But that would be my read of it right now.
Okay. And how are things with Thomas on the LinkedOut?
Well, Thomas, he's going well. Everybody is describing the very confused and unsettling seas that they're in, and not being able to sail as fast or as comfortably as they'd like to be. Clearly, we're in the bottom of South Africa. Well, I think Thomas is kind of away from it now, but the Aguilas current has been a big factor there in the state of the sea, as well as obviously being behind a cold front. He clearly just can't make the boat go as well as he'd like to on his port foil, or what's left of his port foil, so on starboard tack. And although statistically everyone says you spend more time on port tack in a Vendée Globe, it certainly isn't appearing to be the case at the moment. So, but he's in good shape. The boat's in fine shape. I mean, he has ups and downs of morale like everybody else, and for sure they're still getting over the shock of what happened to Kevin a few days ago. And it's been an incredible wake-up call that they're in the south now, and they're away from ports. And again, for Sam's point of view, she's still quite close to Cape Town, so she can get there relatively quickly and relatively safely, whereas if it had been 3 or 4 days later that this had happened, it would be a lot more complicated.
Good, thank you, Marcus. We'll come back to you in just 1 minute. We're going to look at the rankings at midday. Well, Charlie Dallin has lost just a few miles to the fast pushing Louis Burton. Charlie on top still, 10th day at the top of the table in the Vendée Globe for Charlie Dallin. Louis Burton then second, now 175 miles behind the leader. Thomas Riong is 232 miles behind the leader. Then Damien Seguin up in fourth now, 403 miles behind the leader, but he's only 14 miles ahead of Yannick Besthaven, who in turn is just a mile ahead of Jean Le Cam. Boris Herrmann is in seventh. He is 39 miles ahead of Benjamin Dutreux. Isabelle Joschke is now in ninth, and she's 49 miles behind Benjamin Dutreux, and in turn 30 miles ahead of Giancarlo Padotti. And then further down the table, we see Alex Thompson to say he's still placed 16th, but he will retire when he gets into Cape Town. He's 220 miles from Cape Town at the moment. Then we see Stéphane Lederaison and Alan Roura now pretty much on exactly the same mileage to the finish, 1524.4 and 1524.8. And these two boats, of course, the original Fino Conch designs, are pretty much twins on the water and in terms of design. At the moment then, Arnaud Boisset has been going well. He's quite quick at 18.4 knots. Didac Costa in 22nd is going quite a bit quicker now than Pip here. I think the experience starting to tell of being in the roaring 40s. Didac doing 17.2 knots, Pip doing 11. Didac's 24-hour run, 408 miles, is pretty impressive for the former Kingfisher. Then further down the table, Miranda Merrin and Ari Hosela 27th and 28th, and Kojiro Shiraishi doing 10.2 knots just now. Jacques Caraës, then tell us, we've had a few internet questions. One of them, what happens now to Jean Le Cam and particularly to Kevin Escoffier?
Yes, for Jean Le Cam and Kevin, what we try to do is to take out of the boat for Kevin. So we have not a lot of possibilities. We have maybe one possibility is by the French Navy boat. Le Nivose. He's leaving Kerguelen yesterday afternoon, so he's going to North Crozet Island, and we try to do a good strategy with the two boats to try to get the best condition of sea and wind, maybe to do to take Kevin outside Jean Le Cam. But we have to ask Jean if the strategy for him it's okay, and to know exactly too if the Nivose can go where we would like to do the transfer.
How does the weather look for that?
The weather is not so bad, but we know they are very able to do this kind of job. So they are professional, both sides. So maybe we can hope it's possible to do it, even if the sea is a little bit rough.
A couple of questions we're also getting all the time. What is Kevin allowed to do or not allowed to do on the boat? He can...
Yes, on board, of course, we have to preserve single-handed. So there are two people in board. So Kevin can help to maneuver, can help for nothing technical. He just can discuss with Jean, of course, and maybe take a coffee, but that's all.
But Jean's doing all the cooking?
Yes, he has to do it for both people now. And of course, it's very important to know if we can take out of the boat Kevin, because they have not too much ration in board for
food.
For all the food. Yeah.
So from that point of view, if the Kevin is evacuated onto the ship, Jean can get a little bit more food, can he?
Yes, if Jean needs and asks it, we can do it. The jury will be okay if there is asking from Jean Le Cam if he think he did not have enough to finish. Yeah, it's possible.
Indeed, and explain the jury situation. So the jury will sit, they will look at the time lost by the skippers who are involved in the rescue and the search.
Yes, of course. At this moment we have to analyze exactly all the time for Jean, but it's still on for him. And for the three boats also, we have to give the maximum information to present to the jury, and the jury will deliver the bonus they can give to the fourth skipper.
So we've had that situation before, haven't we, where the international jury will give some redress. Marcus, we'll come back to you in just 1 second. We're going to look at the meteo, the weather situation. Well, at the front of the fleet, then they have been on this low pressure. In fact, there's two low pressure centres which are closing up together, and this is the meteo as it stands just now. The weather situation for the leaders, it's all about timing in this low pressure system. In fact, there's two centres, and the two lows are compressing up to form one deeper system. Looking first of all at Charlie Dallin, he's heading to the northeast and has got reasonable conditions, southwesterly, probably 20-25 knots, something like that just now, and going quite well. You saw his speeds overnight were quite quick. But then looking here just for positioning, we have Thomas Riong further up to the north. Remember, he has the foil problem, and Louis Burton always sailing closer to the centres of the low, sailing south and trying to stay as close to the ice gate as possible, sailing fewer miles, but he's had some quite strong conditions. He was in this area last night and he was talking about 40 to 45 knots. Big jibe for him, which is this one here. But he's in good shape just now, Louis Burton, and sailing a great race in second. But let's just watch now as Charlie Dallin goes up and jibes down. Now his ley line, really he's looking to try and skim the edge of the ice gate here at the Crozet Islands, and his target really is trying to get down as far south towards the Kerguelens down here. As the low moves away, he'll have good conditions, just getting slightly more breeze than the leaders. Now they compress a little bit, but let's watch how the angles open out if I just move this way. After the next jibe, just as he approaches the Kerguelens, he goes a little bit further south, and then he has a better angle, more parallel to the ice gate, to the exclusion zone, and we can see him maybe opening out the miles. But some quite difficult conditions, but generally it's all about the timing of the jibes for the leaders. So that's the first chart. Now looking then at the second chart, which is really, we're looking now at the group led by Arnaud Boisset and L'Occitan, and now they're parallel to the exclusion zone all the way along. They have this high pressure system which are running underneath, and they really have an ideal situation as they have the breeze, favourable breezes all the way underneath this high pressure. Only problem being that the high pressure does start to catch them, but they can open out some miles, and say the high pressure starting to catch him a little bit there. Very light winds, but a very favourable course for these guys going all the way along the exclusion zone. And we see that certainly Arnaud Boissier this morning and Arnaud Tripon have been very quick, starting to realise the potential of their boats. So Marcus, your thoughts on the weather for the front of the fleet? It's really about getting down to the Kerguelens now, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the modification in the ice cape or the ice zone obviously changed a little bit like that. But it's fascinating to see how Louis Burton's been sailing. I'm loving his punchiness, where he's going. I really enjoy his approach. He's pushing it hard. It's not that he's taking extra risks or anything like that, but he's putting the boat somewhere where somebody who's extremely confident with their boat would go. So yeah, I think the leaders are, they've got some interesting tactical positioning to do, as you rightly pointed out there. The group behind them is still quite close. I'm very enthused, of course, to see that shortly in a couple of days, Thomas will be back on port tack and be able to use the full capacity of his boat again to start to stretch.
How often do you speak to Thomas?
Me personally, it varies. I speak to him a lot because we do a lot of Vacances sur Radio. We have a lot of partners, Zooms with our partners, and he intervenes sometimes to explain how things are going on. We exchange quite a lot on WhatsApp about the program for his various media things for tomorrow or for the next day and things like that. But there are different members of the team that talk to him at different times. The person who speaks to him the most, ironically, is the guy who writes our press releases, Denny van den Brink, and he has him every morning or every second morning for about 15 minutes to get the latest from him. And then clearly the technical team talk to him from time to time, but most of it happens by WhatsApp.
And he enjoys the contact, does he?
Oh yeah, he does, definitely. And I must say, the last few times I've spoken to him, or certainly with partners and things, I've found him a hell of a lot more chatty than he was perhaps a week ago. I think he's, that's a long time they've been at sea already, and they're just starting the toughest part of the race, missing friends, missing family and all the rest of it. And probably the hardest thing for all of us is when you've had a good chat like that is to say goodbye. At the end of the chat, and he hangs up the phone and suddenly he's alone again, and that must be really hard for him.
Indeed. I mean, I think at this stage in the race there's a kind of process of downloading and just really just being able to converse with somebody and share your thoughts, and particularly in the aftermath of the rescue of Kevin Escoffier, I think the skippers in particular wanted to just process it vocally and really kind of download and think about what's happened, and then they've kind of gone back into the race more and more, haven't they?
Well, that's right, but it's hard to know quite level of what different boats will get back into the race at different times depending on the weather conditions they're in and their own situations on board. I know that it was particularly pertinent what happened with Kevin for Thomas, because 4 years ago he had something very similar happen to his boat. Luckily, he managed to save the boat, but it could have ended up like what happened to Kevin, and so it was a real reminder for him. And clearly, Thomas' boat is somewhat compromised. He isn't able to go as fast as he'd like, and so obviously the memories of all of that are still there.
Listen, Marcus, thanks so much for joining us. We're going to finish the programme with Louis Burton. We spoke with him this morning. He's in great form, and as Marcus said, really pushing it quite hard in a slightly more southerly, more extreme course. And this is Louis Burton. Do join us again tomorrow at the same time, in the same place here in Les Sables d'Olonne for our Vendée Live. And this is Louis Burton.
J'aimerais que tu nous expliques un peu les conditions de navigation dans lesquelles tu te trouves là depuis 48 heures.
En fait, c'est des conditions un peu compliquées, que c'est pas très stable, les différents flux passent très vite. Il y a des phases un peu d'accalmie qui permettent de remettre de la toile et puis de faire de la vitesse, et sinon Bah, tu vois, c'est des empanages dans de la grosse mer, dans beaucoup de vent. Cette nuit, là, l'empannage dans 45 nœuds de vent. La mer est pas bonne. Je dirais que à part l'état de la mer qui est un peu un frein, sinon c'est plutôt pas mal.
Bah effectivement, c'est pas mal et c'est pas mal pour le classement aussi, hein. La route est exposée, mais elle est efficiente, on va dire.
Ouais, c'est très chouette d'être à cette position-là dans l'océan Indien. C'est sûr que si on m'avait vendu ça au départ au Sable d'Olonne, j'aurais acheté ça tout de suite, c'est clair. Maintenant, l'intérêt d'être là aussi, c'est de se dire qu'on peut gérer, regarder derrière les vitesses des autres bateaux, etc. Puis essayer de se caler un peu.
Est-ce que tu peux nous dire à quelle vitesse tu marches en moyenne, comment t'es toilé et puis un peu le paysage autour de toi, même si on voit que c'est bien gris et qu'il y a des vagues. Est-ce que tu peux nous faire une petite carte postale?
Ouais, alors Bureau Vallée porte un J3 devant, donc c'est un tout petit génois, une petite trinquette, un petit slip, quoi, un truc peinard, 2 riz dans la grand voile. J'ai hésité à mettre un 3e riz pour l'empannage de cette nuit, puis finalement c'est passé comme ça avec 2 riz. Et les albatros sont dans le secteur, là, je sais pas s'il faut ce matin, ils sont pas encore arrivés bien loin. Et puis le plafond nuageux très très bas, décalage jour-nuit qui est arrivé d'un coup là en arrivant dans le Grand Sud, donc plus du tout en phase avec l'horaire de Paris, mais voilà, il y a une petite dépression qui a l'air d'avoir envie de se creuser, d'être pas très belle vers le sud Australie. Donc c'est elle que je surveille attentivement pour voir où est-ce qu'elle sera, parce que il va falloir prendre pour essayer de se la prendre en pleine face.